My name is Travis Miller, 33-year-old living in rural Kansas. All my life, I believed my father died in a tragic farming accident, until a letter with no return address arrived, claiming he didn't die. He was buried. That was the day I dug up the truth, and unearthed the betrayal that nearly destroyed my family. Before we dive into this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear isn't just a family secret. It's a buried truth that shattered everything I thought I knew. Stay with me, this story starts with a letter and ends with justice. Welcome back to the story. I wasn't expecting anything when I opened the mailbox that morning. Just the usual, electric bill, feed catalog, maybe a church bulletin from Pastor Ray's wife. But sitting on top, like it didn't belong, was a yellowed envelope with no return address. Just my name, Travis Miller, written in shaky block letters, no postmark. No stamp. It felt like something out of a ghost story. I stood in the gravel driveway turning it over in my hands, heart tapping a strange rhythm. The paper was brittle, almost soft from age. I should have tossed it. Burned it, maybe. But instead, I opened it right there, the sun barely peeking over the fields behind me. Inside was one sentence: "Your father didn't die. He was buried." That was it. No signature. No explanation. Just that one sentence, like a knife pressed against everything I thought I knew. I laughed at first. Not because it was funny, because it was easier than letting panic take root. My father, Dale Miller, had died in a combine accident when I was 3. That's what Mama told me. That's what the town said. Sheriff Dorsey signed the report. Folks whispered how tragic it was, losing a man that young. My whole childhood was shaped around his absence. I grew up thinking grief was just part of the land we tilled, but this letter. It wasn't just a prank. Something about it felt deliberate. Old. Dangerous. I read it again. He was buried. I walked back into the house like I was in a dream. The kitchen smelled like coffee and last night's bacon grease. I sat at the table and stared at the letter while the ceiling fan creaked above me. My father's dusty photo stared down from the mantel, him in denim overalls, holding me on his lap, both of us squinting into the Kansas sun. Buried. Not dead. What did that even mean? I pulled the old shoebox from the closet, where Mama kept the few keepsakes she hadn't thrown out or hidden away. Birth certificate. His obituary. Newspaper clipping about the accident. All of it lined up with the story I'd been told. But it was thin. Too clean. No coroner's report. No grave. Just a memorial stone next to Grandma Ruth's at the churchyard. I hadn't asked questions before. I never thought to. In Buckland, Kansas, you don't stir up the past unless you want dirt you can't wash off. But now, I had a shovel in my hand and something buried, maybe literally, waiting to be found. I folded the letter and tucked it in my back pocket. My hands were shaking as I reached for the keys. I needed answers, and there was only one person who could give them to me, Mama. She'd lied before, I was sure of it, but this time, I wasn't backing down, because something told me the truth wasn't just buried deep. It was alive, and waiting. Mama was on the porch when I pulled up, just like always. Shelling peas into her big metal bowl, wearing that faded blue apron with sunflowers on it. The same one she wore when I broke my arm as a kid. When Daddy's name came up, she'd always get quiet, but now I knew silence wasn't grief. It was something worse. I parked the truck and got out, the letter still folded in my back pocket, heavy like a stone. My boots crunched against the gravel, but she didn't look up. Just kept shelling peas like nothing in the world was wrong. Mama, I said. My voice came out dry. She paused, just for a second, but that was enough. I need to talk to you. She looked up then, and I saw it. Not surprise. Not confusion, fear. What is it, baby? She asked, smiling tight like she always did when she was lying through her teeth. I walked up the steps and pulled the letter from my pocket, unfolded it, and laid it on the table in front of her. She didn't even touch it. Just stared at it like it was a snake. Where did you get this? She whispered, it came in the mail this morning. No stamp, no return address. Just that sentence. She finally reached for it, but her hands. They were trembling. The same hands that stitched every rip in my jeans, that braided my hair when I was little, now looked like they were holding lightning. Tell me what it means, Mama, I said, my voice low. Don't lie to me. She sank back in her chair, the bowl of peas forgotten. For a long moment, all I could hear was the wind through the cottonwoods and the creak of the porch swing shifting on its chain. I always prayed this day wouldn't come, she whispered, Mama. She looked up at me then, and the tears in her eyes were already there, like they'd been waiting years to fall. It wasn't a combined accident. She said. Not the way folks think. My stomach tightened, she closed her eyes, rubbed her hands together like she could scrub away the years. There was a fight. Your daddy. Your Uncle Wayne. They had a falling out. I didn't see it, but I heard it. Out by the barn. Your father was yelling. Then everything went quiet. Wayne? I said, barely able to believe it. Uncle Wayne? She nodded slowly, eyes wide with old fear. I didn't know what to do, Travis. Wayne came inside, said it was an accident. That Dale came at him in a rage. He swore he didn't mean to. We panicked. We buried the truth, literally. I stood there, stunned, like the world had tilted sideways. But you lied to me, I said. I was trying to protect you. Protect us all. I shook my head. Mama, I can't just walk away from this. She gripped my wrist with shaking hands. Please, baby. Let sleeping ghosts lie. But I couldn't, because I wasn't afraid of ghosts anymore. I was afraid of what came after they woke up. Uncle Wayne's farm sat 3 miles down the gravel road from Mama's place, tucked between rows of wheat and rusted barbed wire. It hadn't changed in years, same red barn, same weather-beaten windmill spinning in lazy circles. But that morning, everything about it felt different. Off. Like the land itself knew I wasn't just stopping by to say hello. I parked under the oak tree by the shed, where he used to help me clean my first rifle. As I stepped out, the sky overhead was darkening, thick gray clouds bunching low, heavy with the promise of a Kansas storm. Seemed fitting. Wayne came out onto the porch, wiping his hands on a rag, wearing his usual denim shirt and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Well, if it ain't my favorite nephew, he said. What brings you by this early? I tried to smile back. But my face felt stiff. Got something I need to talk to you about. His gaze flicked toward the storm, then back to me. Better come inside, then. Looks like rain's itchin' to fall. Inside, the house smelled like old coffee and motor oil. Same boots by the door. Same buck head mounted over the fireplace. Everything was as it always was, except for the way my heart thudded in my chest. We sat at the kitchen table. He poured 2 coffees like it was just another morning. I didn't touch mine. I pulled the letter from my pocket and laid it on the table between us. He glanced at it. His face didn't change. You know anything about that? I asked. Wayne leaned back in his chair, slow and casual, like he had all the time in the world. What's this supposed to be? Someone sent it to me. No return address. Just that line. I stared at him. It says my daddy didn't die in an accident. It says he was buried. He didn't move. Just tapped his fingers against his mug. That's a hell of a thing to send someone. I watched his eyes, waiting for a flicker, guilt, fear, anything. But Wayne had the kind of face that could hold a secret for a lifetime. I talked to Mama, I said. She told me there was a fight. Said Daddy and you had it out by the barn the night he died. His jaw clenched, just for a second. Barely there, she said he didn't die in a machine. Said you told her it was an accident. He stood up suddenly, walked to the window, and watched the trees bend in the wind. that was a long time ago, Travis," he said, his voice lower now. "Diggin' it up won't bring him back." "I'm not tryin' to bring him back," I said, standing. "I'm tryin' to find the truth." He turned to face me then, and for the first time, I saw it, behind the calm, behind the steady voice, fear. Outside, thunder rumbled. Inside, I knew something had cracked open between us. And it wasn't going to close again. The storm broke just after dusk. Rain hammered the roof of Uncle Wayne's house like fists from the sky. The lights flickered, casting the kitchen in a pulse of shadow and pale gold. I hadn't left. I couldn't. Not after what he didn't say. That silence, it told me more than any words could. We sat in the dark kitchen, the air thick with tension and the smell of damp soil. Wayne hadn't spoken in over an hour. He just sat there, staring into his cold coffee like it might offer him a way out. I leaned forward. "You killed him, didn't you?" His jaw worked. "Travis. Just tell me," I said, louder than I meant to. "I need to hear you say it." A long silence stretched between us. Then, with a sound like something tearing inside him, he said it, "Yes." The word landed like a gunshot. He looked older in that moment, smaller somehow. The man who taught me how to hunt, who bought me my first set of tools, was now just a man with blood on his hands. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. He muttered. "Your dad found out I was foolin' around with Jolene Adams." He came at me, shouting, swinging. I tried to calm him down, but he wouldn't listen. His eyes flicked up to mine, watery and wild. He shoved me. I shoved back. He hit his head on the edge of the plow. Dropped right there. Didn't move. Didn't even breathe. I wanted to believe it. God help me, I wanted to believe it was an accident. But part of me knew better. You didn't call the sheriff. He looked away. Would you have, if it meant losing your brother and going to prison? Your mama. She came out to the barn and saw what happened. She cried. Screamed. Then she helped me dig the hole. My throat tightened. Behind the north field? He nodded. We buried him that night. Just the two of us. Told the town he died in the combine. Sheriff didn't ask too many questions. I pressed my palms into the table, trying to steady myself. The kitchen felt like it was spinning. My whole life, I said, you let me believe he died trying to feed this family. Wayne swallowed hard. We thought it was better that way. Better for who? I snapped. For me? Or for you too, so you wouldn't have to face what you did? Thunder cracked above us, shaking the window glass. I loved you like a second father, I said, voice breaking. And you killed the first. He didn't deny it, didn't apologize, just stared at the floor, like if he looked me in the eye, it would destroy whatever shred of family we had left. I stood up, heart thudding, rage rising in my chest like a second storm. I'm going to the sheriff. He didn't stop me, didn't even flinch. He knew the past was no longer buried, and come morning, neither would Dale. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, boots still on, staring at the letter. Turning it over in my hands until the sun started to rise behind the wheat. The house was quiet, but everything inside me screamed. Mama hadn't called. Uncle Wayne hadn't come after me. I think they knew there was no going back. By 7 a.m., I was parked outside the sheriff's office. Sheriff Dorsey was in his usual chair, sipping from his chipped green mug. He looked up when I walked in, eyebrows lifting. Travis. You look like you've seen a ghost. Not a ghost, I said. A grave. He set the mug down slow, like he already knew where this was going. You better sit down. I told him everything. The letter. Mama's breakdown. Uncle Wayne's confession. I watched his face the whole time. But he didn't react much. Just listened. Nodded. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, let out a long breath. I always thought something didn't sit right about Dale's accident," he said quietly. "But folks wanted closure. Your mama and Wayne gave the town a neat story. No one wanted to dig deeper." "Well," I said, my voice sharp, "it's time we did." By the afternoon, 2 deputies and a forensics crew rolled out to Wayne's property. They didn't make a scene. No sirens. No press. Sheriff Dorsey wanted it quiet. For now, the North Field looked the same as it always had. Just a stretch of Kansas dirt and fading wheat stubble. But I knew better now. I knew what was under it. They brought cadaver dogs. Within minutes, the dogs started barking near the edge of the field, about 50 yards from the tree line. One of the deputies marked the spot. They dug slowly, carefully. I stood off to the side, arms crossed, wind tugging at my jacket. I felt sick. Then one of them called out. Something had been found. They unearthed a rusted belt buckle first, one I recognized from a photo of my father taken the summer before he died. Next came a boot, collapsed with time and rot. And finally, a piece of skull. The jaw still attached. Sheriff Dorsey crouched next to the shallow grave, his face pale. "There's no question," he said, looking up at me. "This was a body buried in secret." I nodded, unable to speak. My throat felt like sandpaper. He stood and placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, Travis." I didn't feel right. I felt hollow. For 30 years, I believed my father died doing honest work. That his life was claimed by the land he loved. But now, standing over his bones, I realized the truth was worse than any lie. My father hadn't died in the fields, he'd been buried in them. By the people who said they loved him. They came for Wayne just after sundown. Sheriff Dorsey didn't use cuffs, not in front of the neighbors. Wayne didn't resist. He just stepped down from the porch, looked out at the field where they'd dug up the truth, and nodded like he'd been expecting it all along. The news spread through Buckland like wildfire. By morning, it was on every tongue, from the feed store to the pews at First Baptist. Folks who'd once tipped their hats to Wayne crossed the street to avoid being seen with the name. Others said they always had their suspicions. Kansas towns don't forget, but they sure like to rewrite. I couldn't go anywhere without eyes following me. The whispers weren't about Wayne, they were about me, the boy who dug up his daddy's grave. The man who put his own kin in jail. I drove back to Mama's that evening. Her porch light was on, but the curtains were drawn tight. She was sitting in her chair again, that old sunflower apron bundled in her lap like a lifeline. "You heard?" I asked, stepping up onto the porch. She didn't look at me. "I heard." I sat beside her, close enough to feel the tremble in her breath. "Why, Mama?" I asked. My voice cracked. "Why did you help him?" She swallowed, but her eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. "Because I was scared, Travis. Your daddy had a temper. He was kind, most days. But when he got mad..." She trailed off. "Wayne said it was an accident. That Dale came at him, and he hit his head. It all happened so fast." I stared at her, feeling my gut twist. "You could have told the truth." She finally looked at me. Her eyes were rimmed red, tired. I had a 3-year-old boy to protect. The sheriff back then was Wayne's best friend. If they thought your daddy started it, no one would have cared how he ended. I panicked. We both did. You let me grow up thinking he was a hero," I said, choking on the words. "A good man who died doing his job. You let me love a lie." She wiped a tear from her cheek with the edge of her apron. "Because the truth was too heavy. And I didn't think you could carry it." I stood up, heart pounding. "Well, I'm carrying it now." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "You buried him," I said. "Then you buried the truth. That's not protection, Mama. That's betrayal." Her shoulders sagged like the weight of 30 years finally caught up with her. "I know. I didn't have anything else to say. I turned and walked off that porch, the boards creaking under my feet. Behind me, she cried, quiet, broken sobs that echoed in the wind, but I didn't stop. Some stains don't come out with time or tears, blood doesn't wash out, and now it was mine to reckon with. Buckland had always been the kind of town where folks left their doors unlocked and waved at passing trucks, even if they didn't know who was behind the wheel. But after Wayne's arrest, that easy friendliness turned brittle. The same people who once greeted me with smiles now gave me sideways glances. Tight nods, or nothing at all. At the diner, Mrs. Dalton stopped mid-order when I walked in. She used to slip me free pie when I was a kid. Now, she passed my table like I wasn't there. At the co-op, old man Crenshaw muttered loud enough for me to hear, "Some things are better left alone." The real pain came from the ones who didn't say anything at all. The silence was heavier than words. It followed me down Main Street, hung over me in church, and sat with me on my porch at night. Wayne had been Buckland's good old boy, fixed tractors for free, ran the grill at the 4th of July barbecue, donated hay during the drought. To them, he was a neighbor. A helper. A friend, to me. He was a killer, and somehow, they made me feel like I was the one who'd broken something. A few folks stood by me. Pastor Ray called to say he was praying for clarity and peace. My high school shop teacher left a box of fresh corn on my porch with a note that just said, "You did right." But those voices were drowned by the rest, the ones who avoided eye contact or changed the subject when I entered a room. The worst was the gas station. I stopped for fuel, and 3 men stood by the pumps, talking low. One of them, Jimmy Burns, nodded toward me and said, "Boy, don't know what loyalty means." I didn't say anything. Just finished fueling up and drove away, but the word stuck. I wasn't angry. Not exactly. Just tired of being the one who told the truth in a town that prized silence over justice. Tired of being treated like I was the one who shattered the peace, when all I did was uncover what was already rotten. Mama stayed holed up in her house. She didn't return my calls. I figured she was feeling the heat too. Some thought she was a victim, others whispered she was just as guilty as Wayne. Maybe they were both right. That night, I sat out on my porch with a beer and watched the sun dip behind the wheat. Buckland looked the same. Windmills still turned. Porch lights still glowed. But something had shifted. Like the town exhaled just enough to remind me I didn't belong here the way I used to. I hadn't changed the town, I just forced it to look in the mirror, and it didn't like what it saw. The deed came in the mail 2 weeks after Wayne's arraignment. A plain manila envelope, no ceremony. Just a notarized document transferring the property to me, Wayne's land, my father's grave. I stared at the signature line for a long time. He signed it over without a fight. I guess he knew there was nothing left to hold on to. The north field was mine now. The same patch of earth that once held a lie so deep it took 30 years to claw its way to daylight. Most people would have bulldozed it, sold it off, or let it go to seed. But I couldn't do that. I needed something good to grow there, sunflowers. That's what I chose. Not because they're pretty, though they are, but because they always turn their faces toward the light, no matter how heavy the darkness behind them. I spent days clearing out the debris, hauling broken fence posts, and smoothing over the jagged memories still buried under the soil. My back ached, and my hands blistered, but I kept going. Not because I needed the work, but because I needed the healing. Neighbors drove by slow, watching me from their trucks. Some waved. Others didn't. I didn't care either way. I wasn't planting for them, I was planting for him, for Dale Miller, my father. The first shoots broke through the soil in early June. Tiny green stalks pushing upward. Stubborn and alive. I checked on them every morning like they were sacred. I whispered things to the wind, things I never got to tell him. "I'm sorry. I wish I knew you. I hope you see this." Mama came by once. She didn't say much. Just stood there at the edge of the field, eyes misting as the breeze moved through the rows. She reached out and touched a single sprout, her fingers trembling. I never stopped loving him," she said. I didn't answer. I didn't need to, we both knew some truths can't be mended. But maybe they can be honored. By late summer, the field was gold and brilliant. Hundreds of sunflowers nodded in the wind like a choir of quiet witnesses. No gravestone. No plaque. Just light and color over the place where something terrible had once been hidden. It didn't make things right. It didn't bring him back, but it gave him something, a resting place that wasn't born of fear and shame, but of choice. Sometimes I sit out there at dusk, beer in hand, and watch the sun slip behind the petals. I don't think about Wayne. Or the silence of Buckland. Or the people who turned away. I think about how beauty can grow over bones, how truth, once unearthed, doesn't have to fester. It can breathe, it can bloom. They say the truth will set you free. What they don't tell you is how much it costs. It's been 6 months since the day I opened that letter, the day everything I thought I knew about my family, my father, my hometown, cracked open like a rotted fence post. I remember standing on Wayne's porch, fists clenched, rage boiling so hot I could barely see straight. Every instinct told me to lash out, to make him hurt the way he made us hurt. But I didn't. I didn't throw punches. I didn't scream. I took the truth and put it where it belonged, in the hands of the law. In the light, that choice changed everything. Some days, I wonder what might have happened if I'd ignored the letter. If I'd shoved it in a drawer, buried it like they buried my father. But I didn't. I read it. Faced it. And because of that, the silence in Buckland finally cracked. The town isn't the same. It never will be. Some folks still won't look me in the eye. Others offer quiet nods now, like maybe they've started to understand. I don't need their approval. What I needed was justice. Not revenge, justice. There's a difference. Wayne's awaiting trial in Wichita. Mama's moved in with her sister over in Pratt. We talk now and then. The conversations are short, sometimes strained, but they're honest. For once, and me? I'm still here. Every morning I walk the rows of sunflowers. They tower over me now, golden heads turned toward the sky. The field that once hid a crime now glows with life. It's become something sacred. A place where the dead are remembered, not hidden. It's strange, what healing looks like. It's not loud. It's not sudden. It's planting seeds in broken ground and choosing to wait. I kept the letter. It's framed on the wall above my desk, not as a reminder of pain, but of courage. Because it took everything in me to read it, to believe it, to act on it. That day I faced my family's dark secret was the day I stopped running from who I was. The son of a man buried in lies. The man who unearthed him. I didn't burn bridges, I exposed roots. Ugly, twisted ones that had held this family together in silence and shame. I tore them out. And now, something new is growing. So, no, I'm not sorry, not for the letter. Not for the digging. Not for the truth, because sometimes justice doesn't come in a courtroom. Sometimes, it comes in the quiet, in a field of sunflowers, in the choice to plant light where there was once only shadow, and that, I've learned, is enough. If this story stirred something in you, if you've ever felt the weight of family secrets or the cost of telling the truth, don't leave in silence. Like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts, your stories, your truth. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more powerful, real-feeling stories that dig deep, because sometimes, the past doesn't stay buried. And neither should the truth.